What is up, guys? So today I want to talk about detoxifying your environment and lifestyle for anxiety management or anxiety recovery. I think it's a very important thing to talk about. I got a dry throat today, so if I have to clear my throat, I apologize. Probably going to have to do that a few times. This is one of those things, guys, where you take a step forward and then you take 2 steps back and you shoot yourself in the foot. And I did this over and over and over again. I think if I would have made a lot of changes a lot faster, I think I would have recovered faster. I was hard-headed and stubborn. I was young at the time. I think my age when this all started, whenever I was about 21 years old, played a big role. But my environment, right, and my lifestyle played a big role in me not getting to where I needed to be as fast as I needed to get there. The first 2.5 years of my anxiety disorder, this is when things were really bad. This is when I had bad heart anxiety, but I was also smoking cigarettes. I was also drinking a whole lot during this period of time. I was partying, was hanging out with the wrong people, staying up late, sleeping in because I couldn't get any sleep, or because I would drink too much at the time. And I would use alcohol to numb my symptoms, and it's not a good thing to do. And before all this, guys, in high school, I never drank or did any of this stuff. I didn't party, I didn't smoke, I didn't do any of that. It was just whenever I went to college, I started to do this, and then we just started to do it more and more and more. I dropped out of school, something I never thought I would have done. Came back to my hometown here and started hanging out with people I never thought I would hang out with. And things just got worse and worse. And then, me and a couple buddies, I'll actually call them my friends because I'm still friends with them today. And the only reason I'm saying that is there are tons of people that I would text and hang out with, but they weren't truly friends. It was just we were drinking or drinking buddies. You know how that is. A lot of you guys have like drinking people that you hang out with and associate with. But if you remove the party and the alcohol, it's like we don't even have a ton in common. You know what I mean? We don't text each other. We don't really talk or anything like that. We don't go hang out and just go bowling or something or go fishing. But anyways, went and hung out, and we were watching the NFL playoffs, eating a lot of bad food, smoking cigs like a choo-choo train, drinking tons and just crushing the beer, man. We would play beer pong a lot. That was our thing. And it was nothing for us to crush 20 to 30 beers each in one night. I know that sounds crazy to some people. We would drink light beer or whatever. We weren't really drinking liquor or nothing, but still, that's a lot. That's a whole lot. And, I did that for 2 days straight, and leading up to that first panic attack, guys, like I'd been noticing and becoming more aware of my heart rate. I think that was something that was building in my subconscious that was leading up to that first panic attack. I was just getting worried, like, am I smoking cigarettes? Is this messing with my heart? I remember calling my mom, and she was a nurse, and asking her about it. She was like, you probably should just slow it down. You're not going to have a heart attack. You're too young, and you don't fit, the profile of somebody that would be at risk even at a younger age. Even though I was smoking and drinking and stuff, I wasn't using party drugs or anything like that, and I wasn't nowhere near being obese. But anyways, we did that, got very little sleep. I'm talking about waking up at like 8 o'clock after falling asleep at like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, and we would start playing beer pong again. That's how bad these 2 days were. Say bad, it was fun, but it turned out to be horrible. We come back home late one night, and I go to sleep at my house. I was living with my dad at the time, and I remember waking up and I had these palpitations, and then bam, the adrenaline hit, had my first horrific panic attack. And that's, when everything started. I was about 21 years old, and then it was just hard anxiety for the next 2.5 years, and it was just panic attacks daily, just constant symptoms, constant chest pains, always thinking that there was something wrong with my heart. And thinking back now, guys, I was so hard-headed about all this crap when it came down to getting away from partying, hanging out with the wrong crowd, getting away from smoking, cutting down on alcohol, and I would have to go through periods where I didn't have it, to even make any progress, guys, because it's hard when you're crushing alcohol or using or smoking nonstop and trying to beat something like heart anxiety anyways, because those things do affect your vitals. It affects your blood pressure, and it's going to always make you question, is there something wrong because of what I'm doing? And is my lifestyle going to catch up to me? So If you are doing those things, guys, I encourage you to talk to somebody, whether it be a substance counselor or a mental health professional or your doctor, and see if there's any kind of a plan that you can put together to try to taper down or to cut down or to get away from some of these things. I'm not recommending, if you're using a whole bunch of either drugs or alcohol, we could say alcohol's a drug too, I guess, to just completely just quit cold turkey. That's not safe, and I wouldn't advise it. Just talk to somebody about that, okay? I'm not trying to play your doctor with that. But if you do those things, guys, I'm just saying it does, kind of dampens the chances of you getting better, because you're always going to question things. Not to mention what started to happen with me. I was just hard-headed. I kept drinking and drinking. And the thing is, it worked great to get my symptoms to go away, you know what I mean? Because it would numb my brain and everything like that. Then my panic would stop. My chest would loosen up. I'd be myself again. And that's why I think at the time I started to get really caught up in this cycle with it, because then I'd wake up the next morning. You're going to have horrible anxiety, more panic than normal, more chest pain. Your heart's going to be racing. Guess what? You're also dehydrated because you drank a whole lot, and it's going to make you more anxious. Well, I would start drinking even earlier. Horrible idea. So you get caught up in that. Some of you, it'll get so bad to where you're having withdrawal symptoms, and you'll start finding yourself waking up shaking, and it's going to make you want to go for something. So luckily it didn't get that bad for me to where I was having to wake up and grab something. But I think before I cut down and went through periods of abstinence, it very well could have led to that point, because the anxiety was so bad. I'm surprised I didn't go try to crush a beer at 8 o'clock in the morning, because I was pretty much desperate for anything at that point. But the anxiety that you're going to get from it, okay? Things like excessive nicotine use and stuff like that. I was smoking a lot of cigarettes, and this is another thing. Like, it didn't bother me a whole lot before, but after I had my anxiety flare up, I would smoke a cigarette, and then I would feel my heart rate go up, and then it would trigger me sometimes into panic. But then here I am again, an hour and a half later, getting another one. I don't have to talk about how unhealthy cigarettes are, but nowadays I don't think there's way more people that vape than do cigarettes. Still a lot of issues with that. So if you use a lot of nicotine, guys, and it's triggering you, it's going to just hold you back. It's hard to do all the things that you got to do for your anxiety journey in general without those things, but having those things present, or just being a huge part of your life anyways, daily life, it's going to hold you back and everything like that. And, it's great for me to answer this and everything. I don't want somebody to feel like they could never go out with their friends and have a few drinks or something like that, or whatever. If you're able to keep it at that, then cool. You know what I mean? I'm not going to tell you got to completely avoid everything, because for some of you, you don't have huge, maybe addiction issues and things like that. Or caffeine, something like that, you want to enjoy a cup of coffee or something like that. I don't want you to necessarily feel like you can't ever have that or anything like that. But just, if you feel like it's really holding you back, then it's time to try to move away from that. So that's kind of some examples of kind of like the toxic lifestyle, right? So yeah, let's talk about environment. I can piggyback off of what I was talking about earlier. The people that I was really hanging out with weren't the greatest people to be hanging out with at that time. A lot of negative. Don't get me wrong, I had a couple good friends mixed in there, but for the most part, you know how it is. You go to a party, you're there with a couple friends that you're cool with. Maybe some other people there, but then there's a lot of people you don't even really know that are just there, and you're drinking. Fights break out. A lot of, just talking about horrible crap, just a lot of drug use and things like that. And it's just not a great environment to be in. It's a negative lifestyle. Just people talking crap, a lot of drama, talking about how messed up their day was, how shitty work was, all these things. You know how it is when you're drinking and you're BSing with people. We talk about all the bad crap, and we're just venting and talking crap, and it's just not good. It's not a good environment. These people aren't lifting you up. They're not making things better for you. They're not encouraging you necessarily. It's just not a good environment to be in. So whenever I'm talking about environment, it's not necessarily your living situation. I can't, like I said, I'm not telling a 15-year-old right now to just pack their things up and leave mom and dad because they're negative. Okay, that part just sucks. You're gonna have to just do the best that you can. I'm not telling you to abandon your roommate and make them pay all the rent just because they're negative. You know what I mean? If you're an adult and you can figure something out and you can try to get out of a certain living situation, if you're around a lot of negative people, start working on that little by little. All right, don't make no crazy decision today because of this video. But we want to try to figure out who our real friends are, and hopefully they're good ones. They're good apples, you know, they're good people to listen to. I'm sure some of you have heard we're the 5 closest people that we hang out with and associate with. I tend to think that, you know, and at that time, whenever things were really bad for me in the beginning, when there was a lot of panic and I was going through my bad heart anxiety and everything like that, I'm telling you, like 3 or 4 out of those 5 weren't the best people to associate with at the time. And it kind of played into my character a little bit and played into how things were going in my life. Things weren't going good. And it didn't help. So look around you, look at the people that you're hanging out with. Some of you are in toxic relationships. I'm going to spend a whole lot of time on this. I'm not trying to tell you you need to break up with this person and all this stuff or whatever. Don't want to be responsible for like 17 breakups today. Didn't have that on my conscience, and I'm thinking about that all day. But examine those. Some of you are in some abusive relationships. It's a good idea to kind of look into that and see what's going on there, because that's not going to help. You know what I mean? And that's also a gray area, because we have really bad anxiety that can cause a lot of arguments and stuff. It sucks. I was in a relationship for about 4 years. 2 of those years, it was before my anxiety started. 2 years after that, things were totally different in our relationship. The dynamic completely changed. I didn't really get as much support. I don't necessarily blame this individual. It's hard to blame anybody, because they're not going to understand what we're going through unless they go through it. It does really make relationships difficult. You can have a successful relationship. I'm not trying to say that you can't. You know, I've talked to many people that got great supporting spouses and stuff like that, and girlfriends and boyfriends, and it's very, very doable. But it can put a strain on your relationship, especially if we're always asking for reassurance, and the whole day is about us and our symptoms. You know what I mean? So that's kind of what things started to be in my relationship, and it just made us grow apart, and it ultimately didn't work. And it didn't help that, you know, I was hanging out with a lot of other people, staying out late at night, drinking and partying and stuff to numb my symptoms. That played a role in that relationship as well. So things definitely changed. Luckily, whenever I met my wife, I was in a better place with my anxiety, but I still had some, and she was a lot more supportive, and I've been with her ever since. So, but look into your relationships, guys, and just see if there's some work to be done there. How about that? See if there's some work to be done. But the things that we consume, sometimes if you feel like the music is just influencing your life, and it's just like you just constantly in just this negative state, you know what I mean? And you feel like music fuels into that. Try to change up what you listen to. You know what I mean? The media that you consume. This is another big thing. I could throw this into the toxic lifestyle. Social media, bruh. Like, I am so happy TikTok and Reels and all this stuff was not around back then. And guys, I only use that stuff because I have to for my, you know, for my the thing that I do here on the internet, helping people with anxiety. Other than that, I do not scroll through that stuff. I can't stand it. I can't stand it. But a lot of you, if you're looking at stuff that you don't need to be looking at, or if it's all about disease, this is another thing, your algorithm's going to match that. So now, I mean, I've talked to people where they had to completely create a whole nother TikTok account because all it was disease testimonies and misdiagnosis stuff and heart attacks and symptoms and all this. I'm telling you, man, like, I encourage a lot of people, if they're not having to use social media for a business, go completely black with that. You know what I mean? Like, go rogue, get away from it. I'm not saying you have to delete it, but just delete the app things off your phone and don't use it for 6 months and see how your life will change. Also, get away from your phone. You know, maybe watch some videos that are helpful here and there and things like that. And, you know, obviously you got to check your emails sometimes and stuff like that. But take breaks from your phone. It'll feel like it's 1995 again, okay? Trust me on that. That'll help. I think the phone can lead to a lot of stress and anxiety. But I'm sure there's some other things I haven't covered. But media, things like that, the things that you're doing can be toxic as well. The people, the environment, your living situation, your relationships, the people that you hang out with and associate with, and obviously things like alcohol and drug use. Again, I don't have a lot of experience with drug use and party drugs and stuff like that. Otherwise, I'd speak a little bit more on it. Yeah, and then things like nicotine and excessive, I didn't spend a lot of time on this, excessive caffeine. I didn't have a problem with excessive caffeine, but some of you, energy drinks and pre-workouts and stuff like that, those things can be very, very triggering. Be mindful of that as well. I hope this video helps some of you guys. I encourage you to do this because this is going to make recovery or management a lot more possible. It'll be a lot easier whenever you get away from those things. And I was hard-headed. You know, it took me a long time to get away from that lifestyle. I remember whenever I quit smoking, I went to the ER from my job because I thought I was having a heart attack. And I remember laying there and the doctor come up to me and he was like, "You need to stop smoking," or whatever. And even though I know that wasn't what triggered my panic attack, I went ahead and just decided, like, today I'll just go ahead and just quit. So I quit smoking then and haven't since. So it was nice not to be triggered all the time. Is it hard to quit something? Of course it is. It's going to be hard for a while. But it was nice not having panic because of it. So, but I hope this was valuable to some of you guys. If you want more help with your anxiety recovery process, check out my course, Elite Anxiety Bootcamp, down below in the description and the first pinned comment. It's helping a lot of people be a part of that. But I love you guys. Hopefully more content coming out soon. Been having a lot going on around here, so sorry for the lack of content lately. But I will talk to you guys soon, guys. Bye.